Welcome. I hope you enjoy the conversation you're about to see between me and another comedian about religion and comedy. These are conversations I'm calling Disorganized Religion. God bless. And for those atheists out there, may nothing await you after this life. Welcome, nerds, to another episode of Disorganized Religion. I am your host, Seth Lawrence, as always. And this week we are joined by the fantastically beautiful and rather talented as well, so double threat, Robert Schultz.
Seth, you don't need to say I'm talented. I'm really just here to show off the good looks.
I mean, you are talented. Here's the thing. People have come to you for a YouTube miniseries. People have come to your Twitter. You have thousands of followers, which is thousands more than I have. And you've got a little special on Laugh After Dark. So come on. You're a talented guy.
I have so little money. And I think that really that's the subtext to every single thing that's been said is I have so little money.
Is that right? Because you look like someone who has lots of money.
And you see, that's what trips me up is people assume I have a lot of money. So, but in reality, so little.
Yeah. What did you do?
And that's my curse.
You just hop off the yacht and just throw the bags? Just like
that's what you see. That's what people assume. I'm like, hey, can I have some money for food? And they're like, why don't you get it at the country club, Rockefeller? And I'm like, good one. You got me. I am so hungry, though.
For real. Oh, my gosh. Now, where are you from originally?
I'm from Missouri.
Oh, wow. That is, what part of Missouri?
I'm from St. Louis. So I'm from like a suburb of St. Louis. It feels weird to say that because St. Louis is like relatively small compared to LA. But
yeah. No, the reason I went is because as a Latter-day Saint, the Mormons have a troubled history with the state of Missouri.
Not a lot of people have a great history with the state of Missouri.
I mean,
nobody's like, I went to Missouri and they were good to me there.
Yeah.
I set down roots.
Yeah. Well, I think, now, anyway, maybe not. Missouri, I mean, I've visited Illinois, Missouri, the Nauvoo area because it's culturally important for my faith. So we've been there and it's a pretty area, and there's some charm to it.
Yeah. I mean,
but were you excited to get out of Missouri?
You know what? I was, but it's one of those things of like the more time I've spent away from there, I think it's like nostalgia. It's one of those things where like I feel good when looking back on it. At the same time, when somebody's like, "Hey, when are you to come back to visit?" I'm like, "Never." But oh, it's nice. It's got like forests. I like the weather. Yeah. There is nice parts of it, and
yeah. The bugs get to me though.
The bugs were awful. Like that is one thing where it's just like bugs were the very fact that bugs were a variable is not a good sign.
Yeah.
That I had a plan for bugs.
Yeah, it's Missouri and like the South. Those are the only two places I've lived in any amount of time where I honestly have like, I can't stay here because of the bugs.
So how much time have you spent in Missouri? Because you said like, did you live there for any amount of time or was it just like visiting because of like faith?
So while I was attending Brigham Young University, I did a study abroad, but it wasn't abroad. So it was a study afar in Missouri, Illinois. It was in Nauvoo. So we were there for a semester, which is like 10 weeks, something like that.
That's brutal. Your study abroad took you to Missouri and Illinois. That
was my foreign experience. Yeah. So not, anyhow. And the only real parts I saw were Nauvoo, which is a really small town area in Illinois.
Interesting. Yeah.
But, yeah. So did you come out of St. Louis to LA or have you lived elsewhere in the United States?
Well, I went from out of St. Louis to Orange County. I went to college at Chapman University. Go Panthers. Yeah, and then I went from there to LA. Full disclosure, when I went to Orange County, I fully thought it was in LA. Like I thought Orange County was to Los Angeles what a suburb of St. Louis was to St. Louis.
Yeah, sure.
Or was I wrong? But it was nice. So yeah, I kind of had that little midpoint.
Right. Well, LA is confusing because it is enormous and there are a lot of little areas,
And honestly, it's like it feels incredibly naive to say, but my exposure was the show The OC, and in my head, I'm like, oh, a TV show takes place in New York or LA.
Yeah.
And so this is clearly one of the LA ones, and it's called The OC. Therefore, The
Must
OC is LA.
Yeah.
And that's the transitive property.
Interesting. Yeah. Sure. So you were shocked when you actually moved to LA.
Yes.
And saw people of a different color.
I was shocked when I got to Orange County and I was like, where's the Hollywood sign? And it was
Yeah,
like, nope,
right. It's a couple hours away from where we are.
incorrect.
Yeah. Interesting. So you went to OC for college. Was the
Yes.
dream always to do stand up?
Yes. So the
Okay.
dream was always to like get into comedy in college. And wow, this is a religious podcast, and I don't know if cults are allowed to be brought up, but I did
Yeah,
get into
please.
improv. I got into
Uh,
improv, most dangerous cult of all,
yeah, because you're happy the whole time.
because you're happy the whole time and you don't realize who you're hurting. You know, at least in a cult, when you sacrifice somebody, you know what you did. You know what I mean? The robes are
Yes.
covered in blood. In improv, I put on shows in the student union, and I did permanent damage that I only recognize in hindsight.
Well, the one positive thing to the improv cult is the only person you're hurting is yourself.
Ultimately, that is true.
Yeah.
Ultimately, everyone I've begged for a one-word suggestion has managed to move on, and I play it over and over.
Yeah. I mean, improv is such a nice. I looked at it because I started in improv as well in Provo, Utah, as far as my comedy career goes. But it's such a nice, welcoming, supportive group to join if you're thinking about doing comedy at all.
It's very welcoming. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like stand-up comedians hate on improvisers or whatever. But I know early when I was like just starting stand-up and if you're bombing and it's brutal, I
Yeah,
was doing improv simultaneously, and the
yeah,
improv felt great because you would just do objectively the worst comedy you've ever seen or heard of, and be
sure.
met with just like acclaim and warmth. And it's like, this is amazing.
Yeah. Well, and the expectations from an audience is very different
Hmm.
for stand-up and improv. So, okay, so you started in improv. Was that with the student group, a
That was with
club?
the student group,
Got it.
yeah, at Chapman, and it was actually a
Okay.
lot of fun.
Yeah, of course,
Uh,
of course. And
yeah,
how long did you do that? Was that all 4 years at
that was
Chapman?
all. Hey, that was all 4 years, baby. That
Man,
was
you
it.
were in.
Yeah,
You were
I was deep
in.
in.
Yeah,
And then I
that's
did
great.
senior year and kind of my first year in LA. I did I did the UCB thing, and then
Yeah.
I kind of switched over to stand up.
And what was your experience in UCB? Was it positive? I've heard mixed things.
It was positive. I mean, that's the thing about it is like, because I obviously like making fun of improv now, but it's like,
Sure.
if anything, if I had a genuinely bad experience, I'd probably have a tougher time making fun of it because it would be just, I don't know, it would feel like too precious and I'd be unearthing like bad emotions. But I
Yeah.
can't complain, you know?
Yeah. So, stand
And
up, you'd
it's,
always been oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, yeah, I think you froze for a second, but I think I'm
Oh,
back.
we're back.
Yeah.
Good. Man, Zoom. Everyone's using it, and somehow I get hurt every once in a
Yeah.
while.
It's since we were talking about improv and they're like, this is not a priority.
This is going nowhere. Let's stop.
Yeah.
So what did you like about, or what do you see as the biggest differences between stand-up and improv as a performer?
I mean, it's I feel like they're just very different parts of your brain. Like I honestly feel like there's not a whole lot of overlap. I guess the one thing is just like, I don't know, just being able to identify like the funny thing about a situation. I suppose I honestly feel like most of the overlap is probably unconscious. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah.
Now, are you kind of guy that writes out your jokes word for word when you perform stand-up, or do you feel
Yeah.
like, okay, so improv, you're not one of the guys like, I'll just write on stage and kind of feel it
No, man.
out, and
No.
no,
No.
gotcha.
I think that if you're writing on stage at open mics, you're a sociopath. There's a word for that. There's just no way. Like I just you're going on stage to find it at 3 p.m. at an
Yeah,
open mic? No.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Amongst
that's what
friends, Robert, amongst friends.
I was said. I don't think you understand. I have nothing but deep enemies in the LA open mic scene.
I don't think that, well,
Deep
maybe. I don't
rivalries and
know.
vicious enemies are out here.
Do you have a comedy nemesis?
Huh?
Do you have a comedy nemesis, an arch nemesis in the comedy world?
They all are.
All of them?
They're just look at me. They're just rungs on a ladder. We can say
Oh,
this now.
man.
Stand up is canceled. We're not going back to an open mic. Just rungs on a
Terrible.
ladder. I
Yeah.
watch other comedians on stage. I'm like, they're just chess pieces moving across a board.
Wow.
That's the way
Yeah.
I look at it.
Man, you are heartless.
I'm a damn snake, Seth.
I had my doubts about the way you were portrayed in the YouTube docuseries, and gotta
Oh
say,
my God, yeah.
I've been a little disappointed. No. You have many friends in the comedy scene. You don't need to burn all the bridges now. but I would appreciate a list of those you wish do not come back. And you can share
Oh,
that with
fully.
me
And I'll be
offline.
publishing that. I'll be publishing that. I've been tweeting it out every day. This person should
Yeah.
have come back for this reason, including myself.
Oh,
Ultimately, I am
wow.
building to me.
Yeah. So has stand-up been everything you've hoped and dreamed it would be? Or what was your expectation starting stand-up?
I don't know. I mean, I thought it would go well. I mean, it's really tough. It's really tough to like tell because I think that early on you have such an intense optimism. So the expectation is it'll all be amazing, and then you're immediately met with a wave of negativity, and then that
Yeah.
switches to the other side, but you think everything's going to be bad forever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I've hit a nice little midpoint where a good mix of each. So I
Yeah.
can't really complain.
All right. Well, good. So how long have you been doing stand-up?
Let me see. So really started after college. That's 2017. I moved out here August. I'd say I really started focusing on it December of 2017. So what is that, 2.5 years?
Yeah.
About two and a
Yeah.
half years. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you and I started about the same time. That's fascinating. Yeah. 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 Interesting. Very fun. So do you want to talk about a best experience and a worst experience, or just a best experience?
In stand-up or
Yeah, and stand up. No, and just your normal life,
just my
with your
normal life, best
girlfriend,
ever.
preferably. No, just stand up. Just stand up.
Well, let me see. Worst experiences, just so many. I'll say this. This is, I think, one of the funnier examples of a bad experience
Yeah.
that is only funny in hindsight. And it's actually
Right.
not a bombing story, which is very interesting. But
Okay.
it was like there was a Sunday nights you could do the improv open mic, and there was a period where the Comedy Store was doing an open mic also simultaneously.
Yeah.
So I went to the improv open mic first, got up, bombed.
Yeah.
Oh, God, awful bombing. Went immediately to the Comedy Store open mic.
Hmm.
Okay. Go there. I'm late because I was at the improv mic. It's dark. I'm
Yep.
trying to sign up. I take a pen. I start writing, and I realize that it's not writing. It's not working. And then
Uh-huh.
I look down. It's like kind of a weird pen. And then I look up at the door guy who had been hosting the mic, and he goes, "Did you just take the straw from my drink?" And I had, in the darkness, grabbed what I thought was a pin in like a pen jar, and it was just
Yeah.
the straw out of a stranger's drink, tried to write, and then I was like,
Excellent.
I'm sorry, got up, bombed, went back to the improv where I left my car, and my car window had been broken into.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a triple strike right there.
By the time I got to the car window, I was like, but of course this would happen.
Right.
But this is
Right.
naturally the end of this story.
Oh, that's so frustrating. Now, have you seen that door guy at the Comedy Store again?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's one of those rare situations where the moment kind of just exists in and of itself. I don't think it created any like clearly I had no malicious intent, and I
Right.
think he was just more like shocked that that was even a thing that could happen than
Yeah,
upset
yeah, yeah.
anyway. But I think
Oh
that
man.
whole experience encapsulates a lot of what open mic comedy is,
Yeah, yeah.
which is
Now,
damn beautiful.
right.
A
Just
damn
awkward
beautiful ride.
experience upon awkward experience. So as a seasoned professional now in the open mic scene, Robert, what advice, or let me ask you this first. Do you think we're going to see an influx of open micers once coronavirus is lifted? Because we've got a lot of unemployed. I'm guessing there are going to be a lot of people that are going to think, hey, a little soft reset to the life. Do you think we're going to see an influx of open micers?
Honestly, I don't know. I would actually probably think the opposite, right? Like I would think that
Hmm.
there'd be fewer people doing open mics at the end of this, because I think, yeah, I think there'd just be fewer people because I think that it's impossible for people to get into a rhythm. I feel like once this opens up again, people are going to want to get back to their quote unquote regular lives.
Yeah.
So unless that regular life included stand up before, it's not going to include it now. Does that make
Ah.
sense? Like you're going to
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
back to your familiar routine.
Yeah.
And if that's not stand up, then at least not at first, that's not what you're gonna do. At least that's my
Interesting.
thought.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. The less
I mean,
competition out
I'm
there, the
gonna come
better.
out of this thing playing stadiums, so I'm not really interested in open
Yeah, I
micers.
mean, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna
Yeah,
be
this
just
open
fine.
mic talk is quaint, but I'm talking about amphitheaters right now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, had you done much research in the LA open mic scene before coming to LA, or why did you pick LA over New York?
I wish I could say it was like much of a conscious choice. I think it was always one or the other. I
Hmm.
think I may have honestly just been the weather, the aesthetic. I got into Chapman.
Sure.
You know what? I think it probably was just like I didn't even apply to any schools in New York. So I think yeah,
Gotcha.
I think it was just like I think that's kind of like the college put me in what I thought was the area,
Yeah. Well, it got you
what I
close.
believe to be the area.
Closer than Missouri.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that was it. I think also there's like an association of like the entertainment industry, Hollywood. Like there's an entertainment industry around
Yeah.
LA stand up, which is I think different than New York. But again, I've never been to New York, so what do I know?
Right. Right. Now, and do you still want to get into acting? Have you done any acting work?
That's the thing. No, absolutely not. I've done like literally nothing besides stand up. But
Yeah. 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 I can
I mean,
respect a
I
purist.
guess I guess the answer would be yes, but in a very intangible, in that intangible way that yeah, anyone would want to. But I can't tell
Yeah.
you that I'm making any sort of concrete effort in that
Like in
area.
a Bill Burr way, right? Where you get so famous doing stand up that Hollywood producers are calling you, being like, hey, we would
Yeah,
love for you to take this role.
yeah.
Something
And
like
let's
that.
be clear, I'm getting those calls. They want
Well,
me. They want me badly. But
I
I'm
mean, of
just
course, but you
eh.
might not be ready. You're still a little fresh.
That's what I say. I'm like, look, let me just work out this bit. You know what I mean? I'm trying to
Yeah.
work on my bits,
Yeah.
Mr. Warner Brothers.
And I can't portray another 12-year-old.
Yeah,
All
it's like
right.
I get it. You want me to play the new 12-year-old superhero for a Marvel franchise.
The
That
next
is so funny.
Spider-Man,
I
Robert
know this is
Schultz.
yeah, I know this is like a weird tangent, but it is so funny that like every like blockbuster movie that's like the first in a series has to star like a literal child because they want to make 14 of these things.
Yeah.
Like they've got like a
Jeez.
10-year-old playing Spider-Man. They've got like
Yeah.
Star Wars of like 14-year-olds. It's like, okay.
Well, that was the genius of Harry Potter, right? They found those three,
Kids.
yeah, yeah, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and whoever the freak played
Rupert Grant.
Ron.
Rupert Grant.
Yeah, they've
How
all
dare
gone on to do other things.
but
So,
you know what? It's also a great era, and it's something that we have to respect Rupert Grint for, because in the last Harry Potter movie, there's a shirtless scene, and
yeah.
he did the ultimate power move, which is not even fucking try to get in shape. He's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm a 17 year
This
old.
is this is what it is. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's it.
And
That's
it's
it.
like, okay, like now everyone, like Tom Holland's playing Spider-Man. He's got a six pack as like
Yeah,
a high schooler.
yeah,
Like whatever. Rupert Grint's like, no.
yeah. Well, I mean, I found that relatable. I had a six pack in high school. So,
Yeah.
now this
I
last question. Oh no, go ahead.
I let that moment linger in case you wanted to clip it. Just get 15 seconds of you saying you had a six pack in high school and share it.
I mean,
And
I
that's me
might.
being a and that's me being a pro for you.
Look at you. You truly are. You truly are. Oh my gosh. One last Hollywood-ish question, and then we'll move on to your religious history because that's what I am most interested in.
Yeah.
How devastated were you when you found out that Hollywood stars in like high school movies were really 30?
That's so interesting. Yeah, you know what? I always thought, and my theory on this has always been, I actually have no problem with them casting 30-year-olds to play high schoolers. I just think it should be scaled across the board. So if you
Hmm.
cast a 30-year-old actor to play a
Sure.
high school age student, then all of the parents on that show should be played by like 70-year-olds. That's what I've said.
Yeah, I
If you're
think
going
that's
to have
fair.
30-year-olds play high schoolers, when they get home, they're like, Mom, I'm back. Their mom should be just like coughing up dust in a walker. Happy 40th, Mom. She's like,
Yeah.
her eyes have like memories of the Great Depression flashing through them. That's always what I believe. Just be consistent.
I love it. I love that principle. And in the spirit of talking about principles, you were raised Catholic. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
So, do you still identify as Catholic?
Well, you know what? I feel as if I've put the work in to identify
Okay.
as Catholic. That's kind of the way I look at it. So,
Yeah.
do I am I still invested in the Catholic faith? Not really. But I think that
Uh-huh.
the fact that I did go to church every week and I did like confirmation classes, I did the thing.
Yeah.
And I went to Catholic school through second grade.
Okay. All
So
3 years.
all 3 years, those are formative. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I went to everyone for yeah. But so no, I think I would still say if you said what religion are you, I would
Yeah.
probably say, well, I'm Catholic.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now is there a cultural aspect to being Catholic that you still follow or identify with?
Well, I think the Catholic guilt, I know it's probably a touched upon thing, but I do think that that's still kind of, it affects your mindset more than anything.
Mm,
So I think as a Catholic, you're very much taught to be constantly aware and self-analyzing and be
mm-hmm.
very paranoid of be paranoid of what other people are perceiving when it comes to you and your actions. So I think that that hasn't gone away. So I think
Okay.
that's definitely true.
Got it. Got it. Now, were your parents very religious, and are they still?
My dad never really was. My
Mm,
dad was never really part of the religious thing. He was kind of like, well, that's kind of what your mom does. And my mom individually, I
mm-hmm.
don't think is Catholic, but her parents were very Catholic. So
Okay.
she was raised in a very Catholic environment. And I
Yeah.
think what she raised us, I think, to go to church every week, to follow the Catholic principles, not because she necessarily believed in them, but because that was just what she thought you did with kids.
Sure. Sure. Or
So I
that's what
think,
she knew, you
yeah,
know?
that's what she knew. She's like,
Yeah.
well, my parents took me to church, so I will take my kids to church. And that's just kind of what you did. But it
Right.
wasn't necessarily devout so much as just dedicated to the routine, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, are you still going to church every week?
Mm.
No. When
Well,
did that stop for you?
well, the Catholic church every week stopped, I think, in eighth grade for me. But
Okay.
at that point, my mom, and this is kind of where I say that my mom's kind of religious journey was different.
Mm.
She stopped identifying with the Catholic Church really, and she started going to, I guess, the easiest context would be a quote unquote mega church.
Oh, okay.
So we went from Catholic church, very devout, to a quote unquote mega church where like the pastor wore jeans.
Yeah.
They'd be singing pop Christian songs.
Right.
And I'm not gonna lie, I bought into that for a second.
Yeah.
I was
Sure.
like, you know what the problem with Catholicism was? It was kind of all the outer stuff. Really, it's just we just need to be singing cool songs in jeans. It was like CMT and the C is for
Right.
Christ, and it was
Right.
so I actually bought into that.
Yeah. Okay. And
So that was kind
then
of my journey. And then I'd say around high school, I want to say probably sophomore year, then it kind of stopped altogether.
gotcha. So what drew you or what pushed you away from religion in general?
Well, I don't know. I think that it's more so what pushed me away from the necessarily the dogma of religious practices.
Mm.
Well, I think that's it. I think that the problem was like my exposure to religion was very formulaic and there wasn't really that emotional connection. So basically, as soon as
Okay.
I had the freedom to leave, I was like, I don't have to do this, then I won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's it. Like I said, it was very much we did these things consistently because they were the things to do, and it almost felt like a chore. There was never really that deeper belief. It was kind of like, well, this is just what everybody does.
Yeah.
I think once I got a larger context for wait, not everybody has to do this, then I just
Yeah.
went through it.
Yeah.
I think you also can't. I did move to a private school. Sorry to
Mm.
brag. Remember at the beginning when I was like, I actually don't have money. It was like,
Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna let you talk, Robert. You dig
yeah,
yourself wherever you want to dig.
I'm digging myself a deep hole. I went to a private school, the Army
Yeah.
Hammer School for Well-Cough Boys, where we were taught to hunt the homeless, and that
Oh,
became my new religion. No,
wow.
but I think that that was probably it. Is like none of my friends were particularly religious.
Yeah.
Um, so there was no context. Like I said, my mom kind of went on her own journey individually. She was
Mm-hmm.
trying to find like what made sense for her. And
Yeah.
I had kind of the allure of the mega church thing had kind of worn off, and then I kind of just left it behind. So I think that what's left over is kind of the mental cultural things, but just the dogma was kind of left behind.
Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. So did you study scriptures when you were growing up?
Yeah.
Uh,
So in I would we I mean we would go to the Catholic Church all the time, and then
yeah.
also my eighth grade before confirmation in Catholicism, I would do weekly classes where we would just study the scripture. And also I did reference like through second grade, I went to a Catholic church, which doesn't seem
Right.
like much, but you do kind of have that foundation of kind of Bible learning.
Yeah. I mean, was
Um,
this taught by nuns?
my school was my preschool was taught
Uh-huh.
by nuns. After that, it wasn't taught by nuns. It was kind of more so like a public school feel and teaching. And I think that honestly, I think that there weren't any nuns there. I think it was like a few priests.
Oh, okay.
And then when I went to the confirmation classes, the curriculum was laid out by, I don't know, whatever Catholic overlords, but it was taught by
Yeah.
basically just like moms in the community who wanted to give back.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So
And that, yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, that was when I was in my full 8th grade. I was in my full kind of snarky phase. So
Hmm.
it was a lot of me being like, but wait a minute, if North America hadn't been discovered, how did Noah get the buffalo on the ark? And just some overwhelmed mother is like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh,
It is a
God.
valid question. I mean, were you raised to take the Bible literally or more as figurative?
I think that those words weren't ever really used. So I guess the
Yeah.
short answer would be like, yes, the priests took the Bible literally, so they would teach us and they would teach us like take us literally in church.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd say this like my family, I think always it was figurative. It's almost like these were stories that you were
Sure.
told and things you did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So in studying scriptures and then in going to megachurch, my idea of megachurch is sort of let's get more personal with God,
Yeah.
more emotional connection with God rather than arguably a philosophical connection, which I think more is this, study of the scripture. Did
Well, I
you
think
ever?
on that,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry, just on that, I think that because a lot of my Catholic scripture teaching was when I was really young,
Hmm.
yes, they were teaching it literally, but when you're that age, everything is figurative anyway. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like you're being
Yeah.
taught history, you're being taught math. Like these are all things that when I'm in 6th grade, I'm not applying geometry to my everyday life. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like everything is figurative.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
maybe when it got to the point in my life where I was able to kind of at least think about the literal world and my place in it, that was when I kind of slowly started to break away.
Gotcha. So did you ever feel a connection with God or no?
I would say yes, honestly. Well,
Okay.
I think that that's one of those things where it's like around 8th grade in the megachurch era, I started praying. I would like pray on my own, or like when I would
Yeah.
before I had something. I mean, what is that old saying? It's like there's always going to be prayer in school as long as there's a test or something. But it's like I would pray before a test. I would pray before things. So basically, I would pray
Yeah.
very selfishly.
Sure.
And I think that's another thing is like that kind of became. I would pray in my private moments for my personal schoolwork, friends, blah blah blah.
Right.
And that relationship became individual, and it never really happened through church. So I think that also became a way for me to kind of let it go. But I think
Gotcha.
especially during the megachurch era, yes, I think so. Like that was where like the emotional connection came because it basically just dumbed down everything I had already been taught and was already a foundation in my head.
Yeah. Right. Right. So do you still believe in a God?
I would say probably. I mean, then that's one of those things where it's like I'd say yeah. If you ask
Yeah.
me, yes. If you ask me what form that takes, I probably wouldn't know. So I guess that
Yeah.
what was it? I think that Freud had the thing of like Freud's thing was like even if God is real, there's not enough evidence to justify believing in him. I think that the
Mm.
example I always learned was like, hey, is there a clown? It's like if me telling you there's a clown behind you right now, even if you turned around and saw there was a clown behind you, you would still have been right to doubt that there was a clown behind you in the first place, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, yeah, it's like even if God is real, is there enough evidence to justify believing in him? But I think I ultimately fall down the thing of I believe in a lot of things that I couldn't justify or prove in any given moment. So
Sure.
I'd say that agnostic. I think that's probably a long way around to say agnostic.
Yeah. 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 No, I think that's fair though. I mean, do you find it in moments of stress or anxiety or, even depression, do you find yourself going back to prayer or this sort of mental state you were in when you were going to the mega church?
Well, yeah. Well, I think that's it. It's like I said, it's almost like I had the foundation of the dogma from Catholicism, and I think the megachurch just showed me like, oh, there is another way to connect with this.
Yeah.
And then even that connection is like, all right, well, I'll make my own connection with whatever I think to be out there. So I kind of left all of that aside. So yeah, I mean, like I'll occasionally pray, or like I'll pray for like, oh, I hope so and so does well.
Or
But
apparently badly.
or yeah, I hope they're a bit about cum bombs. That's what I think. When one of my
Yeah,
enemies starts doing a
sure.
new bit about cum, I'm like, I hope this cum bit bombs, and I hope
Yeah.
God makes it happen. You know?
And I'm sure he does because it's
Yeah,
so inappropriate.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that again, it's like I think that my connection or feeling about it has like taken its own individual form. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I think I definitely still do, but I don't miss the dogma and I don't necessarily connect. When I think about it or when I say a prayer, I'm not necessarily picturing anything at the mega church or anything at the Catholic church or schools that I grew up in.
Got it. Got it. Um, yeah. So for you, I mean, I understand you don't really identify necessarily as religious. You say agnostic, but do you still believe in something spiritual, a higher power out there, or
Yeah,
are you
I would
truly
say I do.
apathetic?
I would say that I'd say ultimately apathetic would probably like apathetic to other people's beliefs. So I'm kind of like,
Fair. Yeah, sure.
yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like when I see a crazy Christian like mega
Like
church
me.
dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
well,
Go
if I
ahead.
see someone like those like pastors on TV who are like begging for
Yeah.
money and flying private jets like Joel Osteen, I'm like, well, that guy's
Right.
crazy. But then I'm
Right.
not gonna lie, when I see Bill Maher just being like, if you believe in God, you mentally ill idiot moron. I'm like, well, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's the way to go
Man.
either. So I think
Yeah.
I'd probably fall somewhere in the middle. But
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So I mean, comedically, I'm curious. I've seen not everything you've ever done as far as your comedic repertoire of jokes goes, but I haven't seen you ever joke about God. Do you joke about God? Do you joke about religion?
yeah, I joke about growing up religious, but I mean, I think it's yeah, I have some. So I've got a Catholic chunk in there. I've got a good minute and a half. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
it's not
nice.
necessarily about God. Yeah, it's not necessarily about God. It's just for me, it's like more so just like the comedy of like growing up in a Catholic environment and what that means. It's like my joke, like I grew up Catholic. You may know us as like the good guys from every exorcism movie or as the bad guys
Uh-huh.
from world events. And it's like
Yeah.
there's like little jokes. Yeah, I think it's like again, it's like not necessarily about spirituality or anything associated with it. It's just kind of like juxtaposing growing up Catholic versus growing up like my friends who were different religions and kind of like the way those would kind of bump into each other.
Right, right. Gotcha. So, do you believe in an afterlife or do you even care?
You know, I guess if you put a gun on, I would believe in some, like that's, I think that's it. It's like, I would probably assume there's some form of afterlife and I'd probably choose to believe that. But
Hmm.
I don't really know what form that takes. And if someone's like, I don't believe in it at all, I'm like, well, I can't really argue with you. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, yeah, I think I'd say yes.
Yeah. So, from your Catholic upbringing, the afterlife, as far as Catholicism is concerned, I understand is sort of vague. Like there's a heaven and then there's a hell. But what I gather is hell's pretty big. Is that inaccurate?
Well, I would say that's inaccurate because I would say actually growing up Catholic, the concept of heaven and hell was very, very specific.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah. So the Catholic version of heaven is literally, I was taught you're on clouds playing harps with the angels, and
Oh,
if
so
you're in
that
heaven,
really is okay. All
well, that's
right.
kind of well, that's it. But keep in mind that
Yeah.
my Catholic teaching was when I was like very young, so that's probably
Sure. Okay.
who knows? Maybe if I had stayed in Catholic school until high school, they would have been like, all right, here's what's really going on. You're getting sucked off by everything. Maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. We
Maybe
dumbed
I
it
just got
down
the
for
G-rated
you.
version of Catholicism, you know?
Right. Something that kids could relate to. Being
Yeah,
naked
Harry
playing.
Potter started off as a kids movie, and by the end of it, Voldemort's just killing people with snakes. Maybe Catholicism is its harps and clouds early on, but then at the end,
Yeah.
you're getting sucked off.
I mean, I will say this though. Harry Potter had books that were pretty clear about the events that were going on. The
Yeah.
Bible is not very clear about what heaven includes.
Well, I guess that's true. I think that it's heavy on like very poetic descriptions, but I guess you're right. I think a lot of those descriptions aren't when you get into the practical day-to-day application. But
Yeah. I mean,
but then again,
yeah.
I always took that to mean it's like, well, once you're in the afterlife, all concepts of time and day to day kind of evaporate anyway. You
Sure.
know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
how can you put kind of real world constraints on kind of a post world or whatever?
Yeah. Gotcha. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Well, fun. Fun. Well, I think that's we're almost on an hour. We're at about 45 minutes, which is pretty good, really.
No, not
And I wanted
bad.
to give you some time to ask me some questions about what's the deal with Mormons. So, is there anything regarding Mormonism that you've come across or encountered that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah. So, all right. Is
Okay.
Mormons is the Mitt Romney one, right?
Yes, Mitt Romney is a member of the Latter-day Saint faith. Yeah, yeah, otherwise known as Mormons. Yes.
Also the Killers, right?
The Killers. Yeah, I believe
This is
all
gonna
of
be
them. Yeah.
naming celebrities and being like,
Yeah.
huh?
The Osmonds, if you remember Donnie and Marie,
Yeah, yeah.
also Latter-day Saint faith members.
That's pretty cool. Are you still Mormon?
I
Like you
am.
broke you are. So you're still and you're you do take it literally or
Well, what do you mean by I mean I take the faith seriously if that's what you're
yes.
asking. I don't take the Bible literally.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Um
Interesting.
yeah, I think there are perhaps some stories that were literal. I'm willing and believe that the story regarding Moses delivering the children of Egypt on the Red Sea, out of Egypt on dry ground through the Red Sea. I believe that's literal. I believe that
Interesting.
actually happened. The flood, I don't know that the entire globe was covered in water. I'm not sure about that. I
Yeah.
don't know that that's really the point of the story, or that it's necessary to believe that literally. But did a huge flood happen? Yeah, I believe that happened where Noah was living. Sure.
I've always thought that it's like, yeah, I think that you're never meant to take it literally, which is why when I always draw such a parallel to white guys telling jokes about rap songs versus
Ah,
a lot of times people complaining about the Bible as like not being literal. You know what I'm talking about? Like a lot of times white guys will be like, I don't know, it's like they'll take like a rap song, rap lyrics clearly meant to be like exaggerated and be like, but could this literally happen? It's like somebody's like they'll listen to Ludacris being like, all I do is win. It's like, really? You've never even tied? And it's like, well, you're not, that's not the
yeah,
point. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
right,
So I think that
right.
yeah. So that's kind of the in my head. Whenever people come at the Bible literally, I'm like, well, that's just not even what it's supposed to be.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yes, I mean, we still, we still go to church. Now we're not physically going to church anymore because of the
Uh huh.
coronavirus, the quarantine. But
Which we've done an admirably little amount of content on. I will
I
say for
know.
this, we haven't touched on it at all,
I mean, we
and I
can. Do you want to
we
talk about
should have.
coronavirus? I feel like we could.
We could hit all the benchmarks. We could.
Yeah,
It's right
yeah,
there,
yeah. I
and we're
mean, you're
not.
surviving quarantine, right?
Huh?
You're surviving quarantine.
Quarantine is crazy. It should be called Crazy Teen.
Oh, heyo, got him. Now, are you
Yeah.
tested? Have you been tested for coronavirus?
No. And Seth, I'm going to be honest. I don't think we should go into it.
I
I think we should leave people vague.
Good, good.
I don't
That's
think we should. I think we should have the discipline to say no. This isn't about Corona. This is about Christ. And
yeah, that's right.
shame on you
For
for even thinking.
wanting for
Yeah.
wanting the corona. I just figured you'd be sick of talking to people about it because you have
Yeah. Oh
everyone
yeah.
contacting you for their podcasts and their shows.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting bombarded.
I mean, just ridiculous.
It is one of those things where it's like, do I necessarily want to do Zoom comedy shows? No. Would I like to be offered more? Absolutely.
Now,
Please just give me the option to say no.
have you been doing the Zoom comedy
Oh, yeah,
shows?
yeah, I've done a few, and they've been fun,
Yeah,
and I should say they've been fun, and they've been fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They've been
You
fun,
should
they've been
say it.
fine. I appreciate the opportunity. I'd welcome it again.
There you
To
go. I
connect
mean,
with friends, to connect with fans.
yeah, every booker that does Zoom comedy shows watches this, so it would behoove you to speak well of the Zoom comedy shows.
I kneel. That's my new religion. I
Yeah.
pray to Zoom comedy shows.
I cannot condone that, but I understand it.
You know what? One thing I did want to ask is like I know that you probably the Book of Mormon you've been bombarded with it, but I remember when they were promoting it, Matt Parker and Trey Stone made a big show of like Mormons have seen it and they love it. They love it. And I'm like, all right, I get they're saying that to sell it, but I'm like, there's just no way that's true.
Yeah. I
There's
will
just no way.
say there are Mormons I know who have seen it and who have liked it to varying degrees. But I don't think anyone that I know has come out of it thinking, oh, they just hate members of our faith.
Interesting. Yeah.
Which I think is, I mean, I don't think they do. I've seen limited South Park episodes where they discuss Mormons, and it's always in the same sort of, they are harmless, quaint people that are just trying to be happy and do good.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the musical. I have wanted to see it, but I haven't seen it. It was in the Amundsen in Pasadena right before quarantine hit, and I think it overlapped with quarantine, so we weren't able to go. But the music that I've listened to is still the same vein. It's still, they're good-hearted people that might be a little bit delusional, but their delusion is not harmful. So
I think that's it. Yeah. That seems about right. I know it's now jumping off from that. The last thing I did before quarantine, one of the last things I did, it was the weekend before it started. I saw Margaritaville at the Dolby Theater.
Oh, wow. How was it?
Jimmy Buffett musical. Well, here's the biggest takeaway. It was packed.
Yeah.
It was packed. And it was fucking packed with like old people, like packed. And at one point, there's a bit in the song where there's apparently a Jimmy Buffett song called "Let's Get Drunk and Screw." I never knew it, but they made a big show on stage where they're like, "Well, we don't want to say the second word because it's a bad word, so maybe the audience can help us out." And they said that. I'm like, "There's no fucking way anyone in here is gonna help you out." And then they said, "Let's get drunken," and thousands of people with families with children.
Yeah.
Screamed screw, and they've never been happier. And I just want to get that back. If there's one thing we are going to say about everything, about religion, about quarantine, we just want Margaritaville back.
Sure. Yeah. At least the aspect of community that Margaritaville brought.
Yeah.
So if there is one thing you could change about organized religion, what would it be?
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, obviously, like there's the obvious answers, like with like the Catholic Church, quick Google search, a quick watch of any Academy Award nominee.
Right.
That's it. I've always realized like the shittier the movie, the better the Catholic Church is portrayed. Like if you watch like a horror movie with like an 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, they're like, we got to get this girl to a priest. The devil's in her. And if you watch a movie with like a 98%, it's just priest being like thrown in jail cells, and it's like, and we never want you out.
Yeah.
So what was the question? If I could change, like obviously you have the harmful things. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that just anyone could, not even touching on the obvious things of like people being hurt and like et cetera, et cetera. I'd say just in general, I think that putting less pressure on anyone's experience and kind of giving them the breathing room to find their own way through.
Yeah. I think that's very fair. Excellent. Did you have any other questions about Mormonism, or no? Did we cover your gamut?
My main thing was the Mitt Romney one and the Killers question mark, and we got that. And if I'm being honest, the Book of Mormon thing I pulled out of my back pocket. I really just want to confirm the Killers. So
yes, I believe that is all true. The lead singer, I think, of the Killers is a member of the faith. I'm not sure if every member of the band is, though they very well might be.
I feel like he writes the songs and he sings them. So if you're not, they may as well convert. Otherwise, that's just like that's weird. Guilty
by association, perhaps.
Yeah.
Right? Very fun. All right. Anything you want to? Any Zoom shows you got coming up? You want to plug?
Oh, no. I don't know. I would love some. I have to decline them, but please offer them to me. I'm begging you.
Exactly. But,
follow me on Twitter. Follow me on, dare I say, TikTok. I'm so sorry.
Are you on TikTok, Robert?
On TikTok.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. So
I'm sorry.
Okay, this is the final question. And I'll put your handle for Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Send me your TikTok.
It's all _ Robert Schultz.
Beautiful. Okay, I'll put them all in the show notes so people can find you. What's been your favorite TikTok craze to hop on?
If I'm being like very honest, I don't watch other people's TikToks, and I think that's probably a shame.
Wow. Yeah. How do you participate in the community? You're just putting out original content? Are you kidding me?
I just put it out there. It bombs. I wonder why, and then rinse and repeat.
That's great. Are you trying to get your sounds used by other TikTokers?
No. I mean, well, it's, you know what?
What's your
That's the
goal
thing,
with
it's
TikTok, Robert?
there
What's
is
your
no
goal?
goal. What's the goal with anything?
To get famous.
My goal with TikTok is to just keep the gun barrel out of my mouth for another day. Just
Fair enough.
keep the taste of lead out of my throat,
Yeah, a
Seth.
good outlet. A good outlet. I can understand that. I can
Why do you think I
understand
did this podcast? To just
I
keep there's a revolver right off the webcam's view
I
with
totally
one bullet.
understand. Yeah, that's the whole reason I'm keeping this podcast going, you
To
know?
just keep me from reaching. That's all I ask.
Exactly. Oh my
And if I
gosh.
do die, pay me this tribute. Follow me on
Yes,
TikTok.
we
If I
will.
die, follow me on TikTok. That's
We
all I
will.
ask.
And send us a message from the other side. Are we
Will do.
playing harps? What is happening?
I'll give you
What is happening?
confirmation. I'll zoom in from the other side.
That would be great. That would be great.
Right.
Robert, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much
Thank you for having me.
for talking to me. And have a great week.
You as well. Hopefully see you soon.
Yep, absolutely. Bye.